This chart compares the weekly sales output of two employees on the same retail floor. On the left, a high performer, bringing in $32,000 a week. On the right is a rep we'll call Will, bringing in exactly $124. While the rest of the team was handling a surge of customers, Will was sitting at his desk watching anime. When he did interact with his peers, he bossed them around and then claimed credit for their closed sales. This dynamic wasn't a temporary slump. It continued for 8 years. In merely a decade of underperformance, Will never received a single performance review. In this situation, a business analyst's objective isn't to lead a personal witch hunt. Your job is to ignore the personality conflict and identify the environment that allowed this to happen. You are looking for a systemic failure. Terminating a bad employee deals with a symptom today. Redesigning the broken process that protected him for 8 years addresses the root cause for good. The first step is metric analysis. To understand how data hides this problem, we look to management consultant Peter Drucker. This chart shows how the two extreme individual sales figures merge into one metric. Drucker warned that judging performance strictly on average can be disastrous. The $32,000 performer artificially inflated the team's baseline, successfully camouflaging Will's failure from upper management. Raw data only tells you where to look. To find the cause, we move to elicitation and observation. Elicitation is the professional practice of drawing forth or receiving information from stakeholders to discover business requirements and design information. There is a story about a cook who always cut the ends off a roast because that's how her mother did it, only to find out her mother did it because her pan was too small. As an analyst, you have to go onto the floor and demand the why behind every step, rather than just following orders. During floor observations, the friction points became obvious. Will physically refused to leave his desk to greet walking customers. Instead, an overworked coworker was taking on double the volume, handling Will's customers while he stayed seated. To identify exactly who is impacted by this, we use a stakeholder wheel. A stakeholder wheel is a visual tool used to identify and categorize individuals or groups who may be affected by a project. Here, we see exactly how the normal operators, the coworkers, were bearing the brunt of this function. Data tells you where the business is hurting. On-the-floor elicitation exposes why the system is bleeding. To document this failure point, we use business process mapping to create a visual representation of every step. The methodology used here is universal process notation, a visual mapping standard that uses simple boxes to detail how, when, and why an activity occurs. Every activity box in a UPN diagram forces accountability. It defines exactly what happens, who is responsible, and why it happens. We build an as-is process map, reflecting the current state. The flow moves to an assist customer activity box, assigned to Will. Because he refuses to work, the process branches into 2 red failure paths. The customer walks out, or a coworker does the work. Mapping the as-is state transforms subjective coworker complaints into objective proof of a bottleneck. It makes the failure undeniable to management. Once the as-is process is exposed, we design a functional to-be solution. We need a system that enforces the behavior management failed to supervise. To rebuild the management structure, we implement the V2MOM framework, a management process used to create organizational alignment. The most critical component here is the measures section, which we use to track performance objectively on an ongoing basis. We start by setting progress measures. Progress measures are target numbers or percentages used to track advancement toward a goal. For this scenario, we establish a target of $5,000 in weekly floor sales. We also set completion measures. Completion measures are binary targets used to track whether a specific activity or milestone has been achieved. We establish a target requiring 5 logged customer walkthroughs per shift. The new to-be process map integrates these measures by adding a mandatory weekly check-in node between management and the sales reps. Injecting V2MOM directly into the process map replaces the previous 8-year void of leadership with a consistent, documented cycle of management. This comparison shows the difference between the unmanaged as-is state and the metric-driven to-be state. The red bottleneck has been replaced by structured V2MOM checkpoints. Will now faces an inescapable choice. He must either step up to meet the objective quotas, or the system will automatically trigger a performance improvement plan. The business analyst didn't just find a problem employee. They proved why the business allowed the behavior and engineered a structural wall to stop it. This week, select one sluggish process in your own department that everyone complains about. Your next steps are to pull the raw data, ask why, and map out the first 3 steps of the flow. Behind every hidden bottleneck lies the exact blueprint needed to align individual performance with the goals of the organization.